Hello YouTube, hello, and we are back with another speed lab. Of course, this is the channel for speed labs, that's what we do. Okay, let's go actually in the game, no more 30 FPS, but yeah, so this time is Leroy. And Leroy, there's this new patch Leroy, obviously, and this character is good, right? He's not the easiest character to play or the best character in the game, but he's a good character. Like, don't get me wrong, he has a lot of stuff that's pretty damn good. So, yeah, let's talk about Leroy. So first what we will talk about is of course the neutral, right? Because we're talking about Kaz against Leroy. Let me actually make him just stay in place. That's annoying. The neutral for this is usually electrics are like really good to throw out, right? And if you throw them out for keep out purposes against Leroy, it's not that bad. Because one of the options that Leroy has to stop you from doing that is down back 4, right? That's the most common one. And the thing about down back 4 or even down 2, which are like high crush options. The thing about these two moves is that this is minus 15 for example, which kind of sucks because we have to twin piston on all tank too. But it is launch punishable, right? You can TP it, and same with down 2. This is minus 13, you can also TP this. And also the follow-ups, right? Both of them minus 13, it's really good. So all the high crush options for Leroy, if they want to come in without taking the risk of getting electric, right? They will have to risk a launch. The only exception to that is down back 3, which also high crushes, but I'm going to talk about down back 3 a little bit later. But electric keep out is definitely good, but you also have to remember that Leroy players also are looking for some whiffs, because they have this as a whiff punisher, right? 4-4-2 too, which is really good. It's a 14 frame 4-4 move. It comes out like 16 and it's fastest, but it's pretty damn fast, right? It is risky because it's minus 15 if you block it, but they can whiff punish with this, definitely. This and same with down 4-2-1, or down 4-2-1 plus 2, not 1, right? So these are two very risky whiff punishes that he has, but good Leroy players will be able to use them well, especially if they, you know, read electric on whiff, something like that. So you have to be careful. And about all the other stuff as well, when it comes to like vortex mix-ups, hell sweeps and stuff like that, but the one thing you really have to consider is Leroy's counter hit game. The counter hit game he has is usually just back 1 plus 2 and back 1. These are like the two most common ones that are like okay to use for Leroy players, right? You have to consider them. That, and you also have to consider orbital. So these three things is something you have to consider when playing Kazuya's mind games with hell sweeps. One, orbital is pretty self-explanatory because it's an orbital. It will crush your stuff and it will normal hit launch you and it's safe. Self-explanatory. But the thing about back 1 is you can kind of see it like Steve's back 1, but obviously this doesn't launch, right? So it is plus 5. It has this animation, but you can kind of see it like Steve's, but also is worse on whiff, so it's risky for the Leroy player to do this. If you force them to do this, you can punish them with electrics, right? And it's exactly the same with the back 1 plus 2. So this is 12 frame mid that has very bad range, right? The range on this is pretty garbage. Pretty garbage range. And it's also punishable on block. It's actually minus 10. So if you do force this out, it's also not bad. And this is also horrendous on whiff. I think I can show it on whiff. Nah, it doesn't work anymore. It's like minus 40 something. It's horrendous on whiff. You can very easily punish this. If you're ready for it, you can punish it. It's very bad. As you can see, Leroy literally recovers, stands there, and then starts backdashing, right? That's the recovery of the move. It's pretty damn bad. Yeah, orbital with recovery isn't the best either, but you also have to be careful because it has a lot of range, right? The range is decent, so you have to make it whiff first, or sidestep it, or something similar. So that's fine. That's about neutral game more or less, to make it simple, to make it like very simple. Now let's talk about Leroy's moves in general. So the thing about Leroy is that, especially in the next patch, this patch, he has a lot of good moves to check you with, while remaining plus and pressuring you a lot. One of his biggest strengths is pressuring you. And while he has heat, his biggest strength is his chip damage. But we'll talk about that a little bit later when we actually cover heat. So first, let's talk about his like normal checking tools. So I already talked about this and this, right? The counter hit checks. They can still use this. Like, for example, this is a setup. I talked about orbital. And for example, orbital to back 1 plus 2. This is a setup that the Leroy players might do. Very common setup. This into this. Because Kazuya players, for example, see an orbital, if they block it, they try to hell sweep, for example. And then they will get hit by this. That's why this is so common. very, very common mind game there, and a common option. It's risky, but Leroy players still do it, and they've been doing this since Tekken 7. I don't know why, but hey, if it works, they use it. Okay, so that's one of the examples that you have to look out for when it comes to like Leroy stuff. But let's talk about down forward 1. So Leroy down forward 1 is a 13 frame mid. It's like a generic down forward 1 in a way, but it's a lot of minuses, -6. This reminds me of Deluge's down forward 1, which is also -6, right? But this has a high follow-up, triple high follow-up that's -2. And the thing about this is that this is also a combo, right? That is a combo, but there's also a last hit here, which is a mid, which is not a combo. The only time that combos is on counter. So that's the combo on counter it. So down forward 1 can be used as a counter check in a way, because you will get all that guaranteed on counter it. It's a 13 frame counter check that basically gives you all that damage for free, right? All this damage, 38 damage, and you can confirm it after this, because these are highs, 3 hits, so confirmable, and then you finish it. This is usually how Leroy players use this. And the thing about down forward 1, I already told you the frames, it's also linear, right? This is very linear. You can actually step it both sides, which is a little bit weird because most down forward 1s at least track one side, but this has slide track it to the left. Like if I sidestep block, it won't work, but I sidestep, it will work. But this is very weak to sidestep right. So if you want to sidestep something like down forward 1, you go to the right instead of to the left, because it does have slide tracking. The hitbox is also worse because this is a different down forward 1. This is a new down forward 1, basically. And the thing about this is that unblocked also has a mix-up, right? If you do try to press after this... Oh, this jails. Damn, that's pretty good. Did it always jail, or is this new? That's actually good. This is jailing down forward 1, 1+2. For some reason, I remember that you could duck this. Yeah, this jails. So this is not bad at all. So down forward 1 by itself still can be good. Oh, it is duckable. Is it delayable? This is weird as fuck. I think there's a slight delay to 1+2 that Leroy players can do to make it not jail it. Nah, it's duckable. I'm so confused. I'm actually confused. Why was I not able to duck this? Oh yeah, I can duck it. I'm so confused. But yeah, it is duckable. I was right, dude. I don't know what happened back there. I was just not able to duck it. But yeah, down forward 1, 1+2. It's a duckable string. But you can't press into it. So it doesn't jail in the way that you can press into it and you get hit. But you can duck it. Like, you can't press, but you can duck it. Okay. So, yeah. So that's important. That is very, very important. And I think I wasn't trying to duck. I was trying to hit. And when it doesn't work, I assumed it jailed. So, yeah, that was my bad. So, yeah, you can duck it. Then you can punish it. So that's the mind game. It's a very, very basic mind game. If they down forward 1 and you duck, you sacrifice some frames so they can just, continue pressuring you. But if they do this and you duck it, then you launch them, right? But if you don't duck it, you also have to consider that last hit. Let's say you just don't duck it and you block this, right? So this is -2 normally, but that last hit is -10. So you have to be careful about pressing here. If you do block it, you do get a 1-1-2 punish, right? Just pretty decent. Or 1-2-2, whichever. But if you do press into it, you're gonna get countered, and I think something like this is guaranteed, right? That's guaranteed, for example. I think maybe something like this is guaranteed as well. So yeah, you have to be careful. Be a little bit careful about the mind game, and the -2 there is actually really, really strong. So pressing there isn't the best option anyway, because Leroy players might do this and then sidestep, because as I said, it's -2, right? They sidestep and they will avoid a lot of stuff. Okay, so that's about down forward 1, more or less about down forward 1 and its mind games. Just have to be careful to not get countered by it, because as I said, counter it down forward 1 is not bad, because all of this is guaranteed. Alright, 38 damage, although it's not that much plus, it's only +3 for Leroy. So that's important, the down forward 1 string. Oh yeah. Now let's talk about some of the jab strings that the Leroy players use. The best one that Leroy has is 1-1 and the continuation that it has. So 1-1 is a very, very good move. It's a high mid, and it has a 1+2 continuation. So 1+2, 1 is the full string, and the reason this is so strong is because all this is guaranteed on counter, right? This is very, very good. This is basically a G clef, 10 frame G clef, right? And it's gonna check you on counter it, then they can confirm it and knock you down. This is very, very good, and you have to be very aware of this, because the thing about this is that they usually will just try 1-1, just this, without continuing the 1+2, and they will only continue it if they see it hit or counter it. So they're trying to check you with it. But the thing about 1-1, 1+2 though, if you do think it's coming, you actually have two options. So one is obviously you just don't duck, right? You just block this, it's -9. Now you have to wait for the last hit or challenge the -9. The second one is you duck it, right? You actually have to just duck and punish it. But you have to be very careful of these hits. There are a lot of hits, so sometimes punishing this will be a little bit iffy. And when you do duck it, you also have to be careful about the last hit. But the good thing about this is if you do duck this, sorry, that was a weird cough. You have a lot of time to punish it. Right? I can even wall stang too, before the last hit comes out. But it's not infinite, right? You still have to be a little bit quicker than normal. Like the last time I just got hit. So that's about 1-1, more or less. And the thing about this move also, as I said, Leroy players just use it to check you. It's also steppable. You can step it quite consistently, both sides, but I think sidestep right is easier. Sidestep right is usually easier. Yeah, but it's both sides. Very, very steppable. So if you want to avoid something like that, just make the 1-1, sidestep the 1-1, and then punish it. I have to mention the second hit and on are not natural. Oh, true. I did not mention that. So the thing about 1-1 also is that it's blockable, right? It's not natural. Unless it's countered, nothing's natural here. Absolutely nothing is natural. So yeah, even 1-1 is not natural, which is kind of weird. I thought 1-1 would be natural, but yeah, it is not. So that's one of the common 10 frame checks that the Leroy players do. They can also do stuff like 1-4, not 1-4, 1-3, right? They can also do this, but this is not the check. This is not the natural, the 1-3. But they will sometimes do this. That's just to do a 1-2 mind game, just to see you mash after 1-2s. Sometimes, but it's not that common. The most common one is 1-1. This is the most common one. Okay, so that's about 1-1 and down forward 1. Now let's talk about down back 1. So down back 1 is a move that Leroy players sometimes might use. I don't see it as often anyway. But down back 1 basically has a new follow-up with down back 1-2. It still has down back 1+2, and still has down back 1-3. Okay. Oh man, but big thank you for the 3 streams, bro. Big thank you. So the thing about down back 1, which is the main thing people use this for, is I think it has some sort of crushing and some sort of frames, if I remember correctly. High crushing. But not all the time. There are like setups for it. Unless I'm wrong and they nerf this. But down back 1 in general, you still have to look out for, especially down back 1-3. Because if you do block this, let's say you just block this, right? Without ducking it. It is 0. So I just want to mention this. The main thing about this move is that the high here, even though it's duckable, right? You can duck this, punish it. Have to be very careful about this on block, because sometimes you won't always duck it. Will not always duck it. Because as I said, there's a mid mix up here. This is natural, by the way. This is a natural if it hits you. So this is a mid mix up. If you do duck, it's gonna hit you. Although it is punishable. Right? So as I said, you won't always duck after this, so the high is just gonna get blocked. The big thing to remember is that the high is 0. So you can't always press. That's why you might see Leroy players do something like this. They literally do this on block, and then back 1+2 and counter hits you. This is the reason it counters you. It's 0 and you can't press anything. Only thing you might press is maybe jabs, but maybe the pushback won't make it work. No. It's usually to not press anything. It's usually better to not press anything. Create space, sidestep, you know, whatever. Especially if you bait out back 1+2, you just punish it, right? As I said, it's very bad on whiff. Okay. So that's one of the setups after like down back 1-3. And the other mid he also has is this one. So this is not a natural one, unlike this. But the thing about this is that it's less minus. It's also very delayable. Very delayable. Same as this. Both of them are very delayable. Just like the two. Everything here is delayable. Okay, so you have to remember this. Okay. 1-2. Talk about down back 1, more or less, right? And let's talk about 4-2 now a little bit. I just randomly pressed this, so let's just talk about it. So 4-2-3 is a move that it kind of can check you. I'm not sure if it has the tracking properties in this game as well, so I'm going to check it. Okay, not anymore. This used to be a tracking move, by the way. So sidestep right is basically where you want to go against Leroy. I just wanted to check it if I remembered correctly. Yeah, down back 1+2 also countered launches. Yeah, this. I forgot to mention that. Let me just showcase it. This is a countered launch. Okay. So now let's talk about this. So this used to be a tracking move, but now we can step it. But 4-2-3 is still not a bad check. You don't use it that much because it's not a tracking move anymore. But this is not a bad check at all. It's really not, because on hit, this is natural, right? But the sidestep right really makes this pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. Also on block, you can 10 frame punish this, right? It's -10. But it also has the third follow-up. So this third follow-up will counter hit you. Unless they delay it very much, this will counter hit you and they get something guaranteed. So the thing about this though, is that it tracks the last hit. You won't be able to sidestep it unless it's max delayed, I think, something weird like that. But you can also punish this. So this 1-1-2 here is a punish, by the way. That's a punish. It says -9, but it's in stance. He won't be able to block that. He won't be able to parry that. Just 1-1-2 and you punish it. So that's very, very important. Glad I think per follow. So both this is -10 and the same last hit, also -10. You can also punish this with maybe knees and elbows if you're fast enough. But still be careful about something like this. Back to. Like for example, Brian might be able to down 4-2 because it's an elbow. But yeah, guys, just 1-1-2. That's your best punish. Okay. So that's about 4-2 string, more or less. If you do block it, just so you know how to deal with it. Okay, I want to mention down back 3 a little bit later. Let's talk about first back 4. So this is another tracking option he has. So back 4 is basically a 70 frame mid, as you guys see. It doesn't have the best of properties. Eternal, thank you for following. It is only +4. On counter it, doesn't do anything. It really doesn't do anything. And it's basically the main thing about this move is that Leroy players just use it for like a little bit of tracking. But it's not that popular because, you know, it doesn't do much. It's a safe mid, which is good. But this used to be way better. Yeah, it used to be way better in Tekken 7. This used to wall splat, for example, a normal hit. Right now it's just +4. Even though it's still safe, which is good. But this is one of the tracking options that he has. But this is not that popular. The popular tracking option right now is this right here, back 3. So this is a new move. So let's talk about back 3. This is like one of the most important moves to talk about because this move actually got buffed. So back 3 is a 22 frame high, so it's a high move, you can actually duck it, but it's a tracking move. Now what makes this so strong? So the main weakness this has obviously is because it's a high, but it also has a lot of range. So you can't really backdash away from this that easily, right? That still hits, a couple more backdashes, that still hits. So the range of this is really, really good. So they can use it for far away. And the thing about this is its block property is very strong as well. So if you block this, you're -9. This is a -9 situation. And the -9 situation is very damn strong, especially when Leroy's in stance and can do something like this, right? I'm going to talk about the stance a little bit later. But yeah, it's very strong, basically. But the thing about back 3 is not only the block position or block property is strong, the hit property is fucking broken. It's very, very strong, especially in the new patch, right? It was good already, it wasn't bad, but now it's just really strong. The back 4 is still usable, of course, because it's a mid, unlike, you know, this, which is a high. But yeah, so now let's talk about the on-hit property. So this move does not have a counter hit property, because it's plus 16 on normal hit and counter hit. But what it does have is this normal hit property, which guarantees that. So that plus 16 means 16 frames guaranteed. That's guaranteed. This is guaranteed. Even this is guaranteed, right? Because that's 16. So you just have guaranteed frames. And something at the wall, if you do this, you just got wall splatted, right? Into whatever combo, like it doesn't matter. So this is crazy strong. This is guaranteed. It's crazy good. It's very, very good, and you'll be damaged for like 80 damage at least 80 damage if this hits you at the wall, right? And of course, outside of the wall, this also being guaranteed means that it's a heat engager, right? Free heat engager from a tracking high that's plus 9. It's very strong, very, very good. It's risky because, you know, people just duck it, and it's also slow. Right? That's also an added risk. It's 22. It's not the slowest, but it's slow. But yeah, it's very, very strong and it's very, very good. So it's important to know how to deal with it. But usually the way you deal with it is you duck it. You just have to duck it. If you don't duck it, you're going to block it. And then you're minus 9 and they'll just 1+2 and you can't do anything about this. Because plus 9, 14, you can't do anything about this. You can't even power crush, no rage arts, nothing. The only thing you can do, in a way, is I think you can punch parry this. Yep, you can punch parry this. That's the only thing you can do. But then you have to pray that they don't use other options from stance like 4. Right? Which is a kick. You can't punch parry that. So, yeah. Be very, very careful about stuff like that. Okay. That's about back 3 more or less. I'm gonna go back to the stance and the stance mix-ups later. But yeah, back 3 is very, very important. One of the most important moves to know how to deal with. That's back 3. Now let's talk about down back 3 since we're talking about these two moves because they're very similar in my opinion. So down back 3 is a 20 frame low. This is a 22 frame high, but they're very, very similar. The main reason they're similar is because they both transition to stance automatically and they also give guaranteed stuff. This is on counter hit though. So this is guaranteed on counter hit for down back 3. Just like that's guaranteed on back 3, but this is on normal hit. Doesn't need counter hit anymore. It used to, but now it doesn't. So this is very, very good. Same with down back 3. But for me, the best thing about down back 3 is the high crushing property, right? This is very, very important, especially against electrics, right? You want to be able to electric this that easily. And the second best property, well, not the second, but the best property in general is its block property. So plus 5 on hit, but it's minus 8, right? This minus 8 on block. What does that mean? So minus 8 on block basically means that this is unpunishable if they try to parry you. So something like this into 1 parry, and I just try to punish this. Let's say I try to punish with 4, right? Won't work. Nope. No. Right? It's unpunishable. There are some characters that can punish this very reliably. Someone like Brian with wall standing 3, for example, is a good example. Or someone like Brian's down 4-2, which is also an elbow. Or someone with knees and elbows basically is okay. But the thing about that is I think even Leroy can parry those with just back 2. So if he back 2s, even those will be parried. Right? Just like that. So you still have to be careful no matter what. But for Kaz, you just have to remember this. You have to remember that the parry may come out. So something like back 2 or 1. Either of those. And the way you deal with this is basically you bait the parry. You don't have any other option. So you have to guess that they're going to try parrying this on block. And you just sidestep. Right? Just sidestep the parry. And punish it. Or see that back 2 came out and punish it. Because if you block it, you only get minus 10. This is only minus 10. This is not worth it. You want the launch. This is really worth it. So you either guess they're going to try parrying, or you either guess they're not going to try parrying. So that's the main thing about this. It's very, very important. Yeah, Bride's Wall Stand 3 can also be paired with this. From what I know, anyway. Because this parries everything. Knees, elbows, anything. I think even swords. Am I wrong? I think it even parries swords. So, yeah. Be very careful about this in general. Okay, so that's about down back 3. More or less. The thing about what you have to remember about down back 3 is that when this hits you, the main option the Leroy players go for is 1+2 or back 4. Usually, right? They might do this sometimes too, but I'll go over the stance options a little bit later when I actually go over the stance. Okay, so that's about down back 3. I already mentioned down back 4, so this is also high pressing low, which is -15. I already mentioned this. But this is a minus. This is -4. But this is very important to mention because it has a mix-up. And not a lot of Leroy players use this, but it's important to know when you play against Leroy anyway. The mix-up here is, if you do try to challenge it because you're +4, right? A lot of people just wall stand 4 here. The thing about this is that Leroy players can actually parry. You can't back 2, right? Back 2. You can do it. I mean, you can do it. Let's say you can't do it, right? So it's not bad. But you can also do up forward 1. And you will see up forward 1 more commonly than anything else. So this is a setup. This up forward 1, for example, right? This will parry while standing force. Not on block, on hit. Why am I doing? There we go, right? So this is an automatic parry with up forward 1. That's why this is a mind game if you check it or not. If you check it with a button, they'll parry it. If you don't check it, they will just continue pressuring you, right? Even though it's -4, there's a parry mind game. It works the same way the back 2, I'm pretty sure. But as I said, it's only on... Yep, exactly the same way. But it only works on... it only works on hit, right? On block, it's -15. You just launch it. You can't wall stand 2, but wall stand 1, 2. That will work. You just launch it. And it's the same with down 2. Now let's mention this a little bit more as well, even though I mentioned this briefly. So down 2 by itself is -13. You already saw that, right? You can TP this. But TP, as we all know, is garbage. It sucks. Its range is really bad. And there are some situations that it just doesn't work. Right? Look at these situations. It just doesn't work. So wall stand 4-4 is gonna be, or wall stand 1+2. These two are gonna be your go-to punishments if you want like something very, very reliable. But if you want something like high reward, TP would work. But as I said, close range. Have to be close to range. So that's about down 2, but down 2 also has a follow-up, which is very, very important to realize. So this follow-up will basically stop you from punishing this. If you try to punish this, you will get countered by the second one. Right? But the good thing about this is that it also is -13. You can't punish this. And unlike down 2, TP usually works. It's more or less consistent. So that's very, very strong. So if you do see a down 2, the mind game is very, very simple. The mind game is the same with block and on hit. So on hit, you also have to consider that they might do the second hit, right? You can't always block after down 2, right? That's why you might see some people getting hit by this, even though you know that you have to duck it. Because the Leroy players sometimes do down 2, force you to duck, and then continue their pressure and do other stuff, basically, right? Like, for example, this, into this, and stuff like that. So you have to consider stuff like that a lot. Mind games, basically. Good Leroy players use them. So, yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the other low, which I said. Which is this one. Full crouch down 4-4. I didn't say, I just showcased it. Does Leroy have safe low? Yeah, down back 3. I already mentioned it. So, yeah. We're good on that. So let's talk about this full crouch low. This is another low that I want to talk about. So this full crouch low is also -13. But it also has the same problem as down 2. It has way too much range and our TP just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, right? Most of the time, actually, this just won't work. Garbage move. What's the point of -13 if it doesn't work, right? But, yeah, if you're close enough, it is -13, you will be able to launch it. But only if you're close. So, that's worth to know. But the thing is about this move is that it's -2 on hit. But the problem with this is the same with down 2. It's actually very, very similar. It has a follow-up. Is it a 1? I thought it was a 2. Okay, it is a 1. So the follow-up is a mid-launcher, right? So if you try to punish this, you get launched. No matter how much you try, any kind of punishment, you will get launched. It trades with down jabs. I guess technically you can rage art this, but yeah, nah. It trades with down jabs. You will get launched here. And the thing about this is this second launch is only -13. So this is a very strong move. It's very, very good. And the main reason it's good is because this is guaranteed on counter hit. That's a counter hit launcher. So be very careful. Be very, very careful about this. If you get countered by this, this is a launcher, it's going to deal a lot of damage. And yeah, it also goes through neutral guard. Because the low hits you, so you have to hold back. So if you just don't hold back, it will hit you. You have to be holding back. It's kind of like can-cans in a way, but it's way slower, right? Obviously. By can-cans, I mean Asuka and Jun, not Jin. Okay. So that's about the full crouch low. What else? You can punish Leroy's down back through with a throw. Is that true? No, you can't punish it with a throw. If they parry, yes, it will work. If they don't parry, they can break the throw. It's not that simple. Okay. Yeah, what else talk about? I talked about... Yeah, I think that's very important. Forward 3. So forward 3, this is a very, very important move to talk about because it actually got buffed in the latest patch. So let's talk about this move. So the same way I talked about down forward 1, you know, all this being guaranteed on counter hit. Forward 3 works kind of like the same way. So forward 3 got buffed in a lot of ways. The one buff he got is that you can't duck this anymore. Away for thing from follow. So this is not duckable. You cannot duck this, this is jailing. So this is very, very strong for Leroy. Because it's only -8. Mid-high setup. This is all natural, by the way, right? This is natural. This jailed before too. Did it? Wait, hello. I always forget some of them. Oh, it was bugged. Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. The hit where that got changed. Yeah, I remember that. So this is something that you can't duck anymore. The other one you can duck anyway. Yeah, this one on hit. So this is jailing now, right? You can't duck it, and it's -8. But the strongest property about 4-3, dude, I sometimes forget about the buffs he got, man. I just sometimes forget. I don't see this character enough. But yeah, the important part about this move is that all this becomes natural. I just wanted to talk about this, the natural part of it, right? So normally this is not natural, right? As you guys saw, while you can't duck it, you can still block it, and it's -8. But the counter property is what makes this very strong. Because they can confirm this into the 4 into 51 damage, right? That's really, really good. But you also have to consider that this last hit is launch punishable. So if they do accidentally finish it, you have to launch it. Electric is your go-to, right? Electric or God Fist, doesn't matter. Just launch them. But as I said, this is very confirmable. They will just confirm this and just not finish the 4 unless they see the counter hit. But sometimes they may mess it up. So it's very, very important to know that the last hit is launch punishable. Okay, that's about 4-3. And the other thing that should be mentioned about this move is that it tracks decently well when it comes to one direction. So sidestep left, it has decent tracking. You can still sidewalk it, but decent tracking for it. But sidestep right is the way you want to go. So against Leroy, I feel like sidestep right is a pretty good option. Pretty damn good option. Okay. That's about 4-3. What else to talk about? I think I also want to talk about this parry right here. Down back 1+2. This is also very, very common. So the thing about down back 1+2 is that this heat engaging parry mid. So let me demonstrate the properties, right? There's 25 damage heat engage the parry. It is -11. This used to be safe, by the way. But it's -11 now. You can back 1-2. You do block it. Or 1-1-2. But 1-1-2 is a little bit iffy. Sometimes it whiffs. Right? So we're lucky we have something like back 1-2. Back 1-2 is basically your punish here for this parry. This used to be safe, so it's good that it's not. But this is the parry setup, basically. So if they do something like this, not that. do something like this into the parry, and you do something slow, you might get parried, right? For example. So you have to be careful about stuff like this. You can sidestep it. It's also very slow. And it's also punishable. So you have to remember this stuff. The best thing to remember about this is that it's punishable. Because for the longest time I was not punishing this because I always thought it was safe. Because it used to be safe. Okay. The other stuff I also want to talk about is up forward 3. So this move is very, very important for Leroy players, I feel like. But I don't see a lot of Leroy players using this. And the thing about this move is that this is very, very similar to a Kazuya up forward 3. Very, very similar. It's 1 frame slower, but basically has the same properties. So it has up 3 and up forward 3, just like ours. It has a lot of forward momentum. And the best way Leroy players use this is at the wall. If they think you're gonna duck, maybe they'll just throw this out, right? Because this is a wall splat, safe -8. And -8 means they can parry afterwards. So, yeah, it's very, very good. It is very, very good. So they can parry with like up forward 1, back 2, or this. They can basically parry afterwards, or maybe mash something like back 1+2. I've seen this happen as well. So up forward 3, you just have to remember, it's very, very good. Usually used at the wall. The best way to deal with it is you sidestep it. But just like other Leroy moves, for some reason there's a slide track to the left. Very slight, but it's there. If you go to the right, it just whips. It just whips. Sidestep right is your go-to direction. Where's my vest? It ran away, bro. Okay. What else to talk about in the neutral? Oh, sidestep 1+2. How did I forget? So sidestep 1+2 is also one of the buffs you got, right? This is one of the bigger ones. This is a very, very big buff in my opinion. So sidestep 1+2 is very, very strong. Usually this move was only tied to Hermit. So this stance, if you sidestepped in 1+2, this is what happened. This was here before. But now they added this move to a normal neutral stance, you know, just neutral. Sidestep 1+2. And this +30 high string, triple high, that does 26 damage. And you cannot duck it on block. So if you do duck it, try to duck it. It won't work. It jails on block. You can duck it normally, obviously. Let's just duck it. But that's risky because you're just randomly ducking. It's not the best thing to do. And the biggest part about this, which is very strong, is that it's +7. +7 is crazy good. Yeah, this is a Leroy speed lamp. So +7 is super strong here. So +7, +7, +7, and not to mention the chip damage that it does. So the two strongest things this does is 1, it does 8 chip damage, so 1, 1, 6, 8. And it's +7, so this is crazy strong. Sometimes it forces you to duck. It just forces you to duck, randomly duck, right? And some other mids will catch you. And I just remembered another good mid, down forward 4-3. So this is a very important mid to talk about. So sidestep 1+2, that's about it. It tracks really well as well because it's a sidestep move, so you have to duck. It's not easy to sidestep this. I'll just showcase it. You can sometimes sidestep it, don't get me wrong. Like this, right? You can sidestep it to the right. But it has slight tracking depending on the direction that they sidestep to. So you have to remember. That 1+2. Yeah, true. I have to talk about that too. So first let's talk about this, since I just mentioned it. So down forward 4 is a very, very good move in my opinion. And Leroy players don't use it enough. Good ones do, but they should use it more. So the thing about down forward 4 is that it's a -6 mid that goes to stance, right? You don't have a choice about going to stance or not, but you do have a choice of finishing the string or not. So the main mind game here is very, very simple. You either force them to not do anything because of the follow-up and basically mix them up with Hermit. So what you do is down forward 4, or what they do. Down forward 4, 1+2, or down forward 4, low, down forward 4, down back 4, not down back 4, back 4. This one, right? So basically the mind game here is, will I finish this string or not? Because if I will finish it, you will get counter hit if you try something, right? So down forward 4-3, you can't sidestep this either, right? And if you do press, you will get counter hit and Leroy gets a free up forward 3+4. That's guaranteed. I messed it up. Can I showcase it? Let me try to showcase it. My god. Bruh. and I ran out of counter. Amazing. So this is guaranteed. That's 41 damage. So you have to be very careful about down forward 4 and pressing into it. And if you sidestep as well, it's also risky because it can still hit you. And the thing about this is, even if you press into this, Leroy also has an option to stop you even without finishing the string, which is just parry, right? The one option. Either this parry or back to a parry. All these parries work. So you have to be very, very aware. That, and also if you try something like a high, they can do a back 4. And highs just won't work. That's a high crush, right? So if I try something like 1-1, it will work. But if I try something like electric, it won't work. It just won't. I messed up. So basically slower highs. Fast highs work, but also depending on the distance, it might not work. Because they just whiff. So be very careful about this. Be very, very careful about checking in general. Obviously, you know, parries will beat it. But the high crush can still be pretty useful for Leroy players, especially if you do something that's slow.
I activate my credit
card. Reaper, big thank you, bro. Big thank for the 8 months now. I really appreciate it. Okay, so that's very important. That's very, very important. And let's talk about the best mid option he has. It's one of the best ones. It's down 1+2. Well, before I go, actually, let me just mention this about down forward 4. So down forward 4 is also another move that has slight tracking to the left, but it also has a little bit of tracking to the right. Like, for example, I can't really step it here. It is steppable, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can step it to the right, like that. But it has very good tracking both sides. It's better to the left than to the right. But, yeah, very, very good. Very, very good tracking in general, so it's very hard to sidestep. Okay, so that's about down forward 4. Now let's talk about one of the best mids, which is very scary. Very, very scary. That's why you don't want to duck this character. It's down 1+2. The down 1+2 is a 17 frame heat engaging mid, right? That's very fast. 17 is really fast. That's -4 on block. Like, this is the, I think in my opinion, this is the best property that it has. It's the damn block property. So safe mid, -4 on block, heat engager, and it kind of conditions you to not duck. It's very strong. Very, very strong. Because all the highs that Leroy has gets also supplemented by this mid, right? This mid is very good. As I said, it's a heat engager, and it's only -4. So -4 means that they can parry after it, they can sidestep after it, they can press after it, they can do whatever they want after it. So you have to be very careful about this move. And the thing about this is that it's also steppable, but it also has slight tracking to the left. Like, just don't step a Leroy to the left. Just don't do it. You can sidewalk this, but even then sometimes it hits you. Just go right. Just go right, bro. And force them to use like tracking moves like back 4 and back 3. Or some other moves that track to the right, like down forward 4, for example. As I said, tracks to the right a little bit. So, yeah. You have to be aware of that. Be very, very aware of that. Down 1+2 is a very, very strong mid. Very good. Now let's talk about one more low, and I think that's about it for neutral after that one more low, and we can transition to the stance. So down 3 is like the big low. Down 3-2, not that. Down 3-2. So this is the big low. This is basically like Horax down 3-4 in a way. You can think about it like that. 2-1, 2-3. Oh, true, true. I should mention that too. Thank you, bro. So let's talk about down 3-2. The thing about down 3-2 is it's very similar to Horax, right? It also has very, very good tracking. So unlike Horang, you can sidestep it. You can sidewalk to the left most of the time, right? It is walkable. But unlike Horang with Leroy, this tracks really well. This is also walkable sometimes, don't get me wrong, right? It's doable, but it will track really well. It has very good tracking. So usually they kind of force you to guess the down 3, and it is launch punishable, right? You have to launch this. It is launchable. So you have to be careful about this. This is the big low, basically. It's a big low that forces you to duck. But it doesn't do much damage, it does 16. But the big thing about this is that it gets +8 into a Hermit mix-up. And Hermit mix-up is scary because of 1+2. I will talk about this a bit later, about the options that I said. I briefly already mentioned these, but 1+2 is scary. Back 4 is scary, right? Forward 1, sometimes you'll see this as well. Just for countered launch, maybe. Or maybe sometimes you'll see the 2, just for mind games. Or 4, just for mind game. Just this. So, yeah. As I said, I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. Now, let's mention the 2-1 string. So the 2-1 string is also very, very common. And it's common because it's a good string. So 2-1 by itself is a -7 high mid. It's basically something like a Jin 2-1 in a way, but it's not as good, obviously, right? Obviously it's not as good. It's natural, 22 damage. But the thing that makes it strong is the follow-ups. So 2-1-2 is a very delayable follow-up that might catch you on counter if you try to press after this, right? Of course, it's a high, you can duck it or do high pressure moves against it if they delay it. But this may catch you counter it. And also, this is also a thing that not a lot of people know. That 2-1-2 actually is a parry. You cannot interrupt. He parries you. Which is crazy, to be honest. This is very weird. 2-1-2 in the middle of 2-1-2. He parries. I don't know why it's a thing. Yeah, it looks sick. Don't get me wrong. But it's just weird to me. That's a thing. So you have to be very careful about 2-1-2. And sometimes you duck it, but the delay really makes it so that you're forced to just keep ducking instead of just fuzzy and get up, right? And as you all know, you don't want to keep ducking against any character. It's very risky. And the thing about this move also is that these two moves, they're guaranteed on counter it. So if they see that you got countered by this, they will just finish this. It's very good. Very, very good. So something like this is what I mean, right? If you get hit, it's still natural, but they can't fully delay it. But on counter it, it's very, very confirmable. Basically is what I want to say. So normally, even on hit, they can do this. But the main thing that makes counter hit so strong is that they can delay the last hit as much as they want. They can actually confirm it. While the hit confirm is very hard, you can't really confirm the hit well at all. Okay, but it is natural. Like the third and fourth is natural. If they do commit to it and you press, you're just gonna get hit and maybe wall splat. I think this wall splats as well. So the way you deal with this is third hit, it's a high, right? You have to duck it, punish it, but this is a guess. You have to guess that they're gonna do this. And if they do the last hit, let's say you just block everything. You punish it. It is -30. You can't really sidestep it or do anything about this. You just punish it. With whatever you want. Down back 1-2, back 1-2, 1-1-2. Just punish it. Okay, that's about the 2-1 string. I think we can transition to Hermit stance. So this stance is very, very important. Sidestep 4. Oh, true. I almost forgot. Dude, I almost forgot Sidestep 4. This might be one of the best lows he has. How did I forget? Dude, hey Leroy, thank you, man. Dude, Twitch chat is goated. Every time I speed lab, they remind me about a lot of stuff. That's why I like speed labbing with Twitch chat. They tell me a lot of stuff while I don't remember some. Okay, so Sidestep 4. Almost forgot to mention this. Is very, very important, actually. So Sidestep 4 is a long range low. It's actually very decent range. It's not that bad. So it's like 2.2 range. Decent range. It's not the best, obviously, right? But it's a +4 sidestep low that can get mixed up with something like this or this. This is like a pure mix-up. This and this is also a mix-up. And this into like something like down forward 4, maybe a mix-up. Like it has mix-ups basically. They can just do mids. They can also do something like this power crush to the mix-up if they really want to. So they have options, is what I want to say. But the main thing that makes it strong is the +4 property. That's 1. And the -12 on block. So -12 on block is the biggest thing that makes us very strong, especially against us. So we cannot twin piston this. The other thing, which makes it very strong, is the counter property, giving a guaranteed 12 framer. So 2-2 here is guaranteed. So 2-2, 2-1, 1-2, all this stuff. You can even 1-4, right? If they want the Hermit stance mix-up. All this is guaranteed up to 12 frames. It's very, very strong. 2-2 is basically there for frames and damage. 1-4 is basically there for Hermit mix-ups. So, yeah, it's very damn good. It's very strong. You don't get a wall splat unlike Paul's. You know, Paul has a very similar move, but Paul gets a guaranteed shoulder. But, yeah, it's still very strong. It's very, very good. Kind of forces you to duck here, right? And if you want to duck, he also has to. This is a mix-up, as I already said. Okay, so that's very, very good. But now we can transition to actual stats, unless I'm forgetting something again. So, yeah. Oh, and before I transition, this move is very hard to sidestep as well. It's a sidestep move. It's a low that has already it has decent tracking, but it's a sidestep move as well. It's not easy to sidestep. It's better to backdash, but if you're at the wall, good luck backdashing. So now let's talk about the Hermit stance. So what I did mention is Hermit 1. I mentioned this a lot, especially when I was talking about this and this, right? Because it's important to mention. And insta parry after Hermit's insta Hermit stance. So these two you have to remember when he transitions into stances. He may parry you depending on the transition. For example, this into parry works, right? Because of the frames. But something like 1 to 4, if you block this, you just have to look at the frames, right? This is -9, this is actually a punish. And the reason this is a punish, because his fastest parry comes out in 2 frames, if I remember correctly. Either 2 or 3 frames. So, you have to remember that. It's very, very important. So if something like 1 to 4 is -9, that means it's actually punishable. He cannot parry you. 1, 1, 2 works against it. 3 frames, gotcha. So, yeah, that's very, very strong. It's very, very good to do. That's about 1 to 4. And there are some other transitions as well. But the one exception is the down forward 4. Not down forward 4. This is -6. I mentioned this, right? That when he transitions here, he's -6. So you actually cannot punish this. This is not a punish. He will be able to parry you. Let me just demonstrate this. I already told you guys about this, but let me just demonstrate as well. Right? Parryable. This is one of the exceptions for that. The other exception is also forward, forward, forward. I think I forgot to mention this as well. Okay, let me mention this while I'm at it. So forward, forward, 4 is another mid that looks very similar to down forward 4. But the frames are a bit different. This is actually 16 frames fast, and it's -4 instead of -6, so it's actually less minus. But in this situation, Leroy players can also parry you. They can parry your jabs, they can parry anything you do, basically. Back 1 or 1, they can do it. But the biggest thing about this move is that it has a very, very similar mind game to down forward 4. Very similar mind game. In the sense that it has a follow-up that you don't want to press into. And they will mix you up with Hermit if you don't do anything. Right? So the follow-up is forward, forward, 2, forward, 2. This one right here. Pick that column. And if you do press into this, you will get counter-launched. Right? That's counter-launcher. That's why you have to like wait for this and then punish it. It is -14. You can technically electric this, right? Technically so. Like that. But that was not even electric, that was a punish. But usually it's better to... There you go, I punished it. It's better to down back 1, 2. This is a very, very consistent punish. Okay, so that's forward, forward, forward 2. But just forward, forward, 4 you also have to be wary of. It's a very, very strong tool. I think it's very, very good because of the mix-up. It basically stops you from pressing because of the 2. It also stops you from sidestepping because this will just hit you. And also, I almost forgot, this move is very, very good. Let me get hit. Because this is natural. This is a natural string. It's very good. So that's also one of the exceptions about that. The other ones, like for example, while staying in 1-4, this can also be punished just like 1-4. And most other strings that transition to stance can be punished by 10 framers as well. These two are the exception. Maybe there's another one, but I forgot about it. In the neutral, anyway. There are some other exceptions in the stance, like for example 4. So let's talk about this. So Hermit 4 is a very, very common check in the Hermit. For example, you might see someone like do this and then 4. So this is a Hermit 4, 11 frame mid. And the thing about this mid is that it's +7. Normally, right? And -7 on block. I'm guessing you guys understand what this means. -7 means that they can block, not block parry. So if they do something like this into 1 parry, and you try to challenge it, you get parried. Right? So you have to remember stuff like this. Very, very important. The 4 also has that kind of situation. But the 4 also has a follow-up. So it's kind of similar to forward, forward, 4 and down forward, 4 in that way. that it kind of forces you to guess either if the follow-up is coming with 1+2 or parry is coming. It's very, very similar. These three moves are very similar in my opinion, mind game wise. Throw in that case, yeah, throw can be good. Throw is a good option, definitely. But some other people also mentioned that throw is not guaranteed. If they parry, it works, but they can just break it if they don't, right? You have to remember that. Very, very important to remember that. Okay, so that's Hermit 4. Now let's talk about Hermit 3. So Hermit 3 basically is the low mix-up. He has 2 low mix-ups from this. This is one of them. So Hermit 3-4 is basically the high risk, high reward low mix-up. The reward isn't that high, if you ask me, but that's decent damage with 24. It is +1, so it's not that bad. And usually it's used for killing situations if they think this will kill. But the thing about this move is that it's -50. You can't electric this, right? You just electric. That's the big minus of it. But you have to duck both the low and the mid. So the mind game can be like only this low sometimes. And since you're expecting the mid, you're not gonna punish this. So just the low is -13. You can actually TP this. And the low mid is -15. The low is launch? Yeah, the low is launch. The low mid. So yeah, I have to be very, very aware of this. And the other low mix-up, which I said that he has 2, is back 4. So back 4 is a -13 low, which is a very strong low in my opinion. Unless you go up against Kaz because you can launch it. You can launch this with 1-2. I think there are some ranges where TP doesn't work, but most of the time it works. Like, this is very consistent, more or less. Let me try to make it whiff. There we go, I made it whiff. But more or less it's consistent, more or less. So you have to remember that. This is also tracking. This is also very hard to sidestep. So usually it forces you to duck. But now, what forces you not to duck? And this is a huge issue, right? It's a huge, huge issue when it comes to dealing with Hermit stats. Basically, he has a Hermit 1+2, which is kind of broken right now. This is a very strong move. So this move conditions you to not duck. Basically, all lows are free against you just because of this move. Just because this exists. So let's talk about this. So this move, mark it alone. So this move used to be -9 before the patch. Now it's -2. -2. So that's a big difference. That's 7 frames that he just got, right? And this checks you in any way. If you duck, sidestep, press, doesn't matter. This will check you. It's -2. And the biggest thing about this is that it's very confirmable. You can do this and then confirm the last hit. So this is a string. 1+2, I think 1. 1+2, 1. Right? And it's very, very strong because it's a hit confirmable heat engager that's mid and is -2 on block. It's very strong. But the one thing you also have to remember about this is that if they do finish it, let's say they don't hit confirm it, they just finish it, it's -17. So you have to launch this. You electric this as well. Okay. So that's important to know. If they do mess up the hit confirm and you block it, you have to launch it. Of course, the only difference here, not difference, the exception here is in heat, because it's a heat dash. But I'll cover that a little bit later when I actually go into heat, which is gonna be right after this stance. So yeah, 1+2 is an amazing mid check. This is gonna be the most common option Leroy players go for. They should anyway, because it's that strong. It's very strong. Okay, so that's very, very good. Now let's talk about another mid check. There are actually 2 more mid checks that I have to talk about. One is an orbital, right? So the forward 4 is a normal hit launching orbital. So if you do something like a down jab or something, this will actually just avoid it, right? Of course, other stuff will be down jabs as well, but this will just jump over it. The thing about this move is that it is linear, so you can actually sidestep it, right? It is pretty linear. You can sidestep it more or less both directions. I think sidestep right is easier. You can get her back turn, get him back turn there. But the strong thing about this move, this orbital, is that it's 0. That's very, very strong. 0 on block, normal hit launching orbital. That's a very strong move. But as I said, it's very linear. But this weakness, if you ask me, doesn't really exist when the move like 1+2 exists. If 1+2 exists, this stops you from sidestepping. So if I do something like this and 1+2, for example, right? Let me just try sidestep. I get hit. Other side? Nope. So this 1+2 not only stops you from ducking, it also stops you from sidestepping. It's very, very strong in that regard. Very good. Because something like this orbital will be blocked more than sidestepped. Or maybe you get hit by it sometimes as well, right? So it's very, very good. Okay, so that's important to know. Now let's talk about the other mid mix-up, which is also very common, is the back one. This is one of the best ones. So 1+2 is there for checking people. Also hit confirm the heat engager, which is very strong. But back one is amazing. It's super good. So Hermit back one is a 20 frame mid. It's +7 on hit, force crouch, just like you see. But the biggest thing about this is that it's +4 on block as well. And it also does 6 chip damage. Right? This is very, very good. This is also very steppable, just like forward 4. It's not as steppable, but it is steppable, right? But as I said, in a world when Leroy has Hermit 1+2, stepping is very, very risky. If you do guess correctly and you step it, you do get the launch. Does force crouch? Not on block. On hit it does. So on block, I can just jab or sidestep whatever direction I want, but on hit it forces crouch and it's +7. The biggest property that this has, the best property, is that it's a countered launcher. So this is a +4 mid on block, +7 on hit, countered launches, and the only weakness it has is that it's linear. And as I said, it's not that much of a weakness since this exists. Also, this also tracks. So yeah, this will also track you, by the way, the 4. This is fast enough for you to track you in most situations. Basically a tracking move, that the Hermit 4. Not only because it's fast, but also because it tracks really well. So yeah, sidestepping is the best option unless you have the read. If they like spamming back one, you sidestep them, obviously. But just be careful about the other checks. Okay. And the other move that I kind of briefly want to mention is forward 1. So something like this might be common, because the forward 1 basically is a countered launch as well. Not, it used to. Okay, it's not anymore. But it basically checks you from sidestep a lot too. And it's +15, and it's also 0. And this is very, very useful because, as I said, this checks you. Right? Forward 1. Especially in these kind of situations, it's common, like 1 to 4, forward 1. To just check you because it's also fast. And it kind of forces you to duck if you want to deal with it, because otherwise it's 0. How to step back 1? Just step it. I don't even know how to step it. Like after 1 to 4, for example, if they like doing back 1, just step it. Or if you want to make it easier for yourself, sidewalk it. But don't do it to the left. It has slide tracking to the left. Always step Leroy to the right. Not to the left. Okay. So that's about that. What else to mention about the stance? I think I mentioned the most common things. I'm pretty sure I mentioned the most common things. That's the 1+2. I did mention this. I did. Hell sweep. Oh, true. I forget he has hell sweep. How do you do the hell sweep? Back 3. There we go. I forgot. I always forget he has this hell sweep from stance. Back 3 1+2. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So this is the big low. So this is a big low as well, right? But the big low is a hell sweep from stance, which is the back 3 1+2. Comes out in 20 frames. And this also forces you to duck in a way. Right? Because this will, especially at like breakable walls, this is very, very risky. But it's a hell sweep, it's launch punishable. Right? Just block it. But the thing this does is that it also tracks you. It tracks really well to the left, basically full tracking. And it tracks well to the right as well. You can sidewalk it sometimes, right? Like this. But in stance situations, stance transition situations, it will just track you. 3 good lows in stance. I mean, this is a great one. Hell sweep is good as well, but this is a little bit iffy. I don't know if I can call this good, but yeah, I mean, it's good to have. Like, it's good in general. I think this mid is the most broken move he has. In my opinion, this 1+2 mid is the most broken move that he has in general. Even more than back 3 and down back 3. Okay. So now let's talk about heat. I think we can finally talk about Heat. Oh, before I talk about Heat, I have to mention this. So, Leroy also has a very unique mechanic. He's the only one in the game that has this, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, sugar.
Not that. That was a misinput. I didn't even want to mention that. Okay, that was hilarious. Yeah, he can summon Sugar, his very unique mechanic. Be careful, guys. Sugar, bro. Yeah, I didn't mean that. What I wanted to showcase is the cane. It's the cane. I didn't remember the input. So this is a mid cane that he has that normal hit launches, right? Through his launch. And this is very, very scary because it does a lot of damage. Like, look at this, right? Without a wall. That's crazy. So be very, very careful about that. Mid cane. And usually this will be used for either mid checks. Like it will check you and try to, you know, press or sidestep. Although this is steppable. But remember, never step Leroy to the left. This tracks to the left. His last resort tracks to the left. It does not track to the right. Right? So this is important to remember. But this is +7 for you, so it's -7. It's not punishable. You have to be careful. But now let's talk about the other cane, which is the bigger problem. More than the low one. When it's time to use it. So this is a low cane, basically a launching hell sweep. 20 frame launching hell sweep, basically reaches pretty far. Doesn't do that much damage, but it's pretty damn strong. So he has access to it once a game. I don't know if this combo works, it doesn't work. But yeah, I have to be very careful about this. Maybe this works. There you go, that works. Like 50 damage, something like that. And they can get the wall and deal a lot of damage with it as well. So basically he has this all game until he uses it. And it doesn't matter which one he uses, by the way. This is very important to realize that if he uses a mid cane, he doesn't have a low cane left. He doesn't. So yeah, very, very important to realize if he uses one, he doesn't have the other. Oh yeah. That's about the canes. And if you want to sidestep it, the canes, you can sidestep the mid to the right, but the low basically tracks. The low is the tracking cane. You saw that? It's a tracking low. It fucking tracks. So yeah, be very, very careful about this. He can just throw it out whenever he wants. That's what -15. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. The block property. So when you do block this, let's say you block it, right? It's -14. I forgot. So you can technically electric that, like I did right there, but I wouldn't recommend it. I can't do it anymore. So yeah, down back 1-2 is gonna be your punish. So yeah, be careful. Be very careful about this. Broken, it is very strong. Because the thing about this is it kind of forces you to guess that it's coming almost all the time. But the most common ways they use this is end around situations. If they think this is gonna kill, the combo after this, that's when they use it. Normally they won't use it. But I think that very, very good Leroy players should realize that the best way to use this is in situations when the opponent never expects it. Which is when they have like maybe higher than 50% HP, right? They won't expect it. That's like a high hit rate, low cane. So be very careful about that. After heat engages is common, yeah, maybe, right? So yeah. Now let's talk about heat. So heat is very, very important to talk about because in heat Leroy becomes very, very annoying and very, very strong. And why is that so? So let me actually make him be in heat permanently because I have to talk about this a lot. I don't want to like go in heat every time. So his heat is super, super strong because all his moves that already do chip damage do more chip damage now. So example, right? This 1+2. Let me make him block. Already did chip damage, right? Now it does 12 chip damage. Yeah, this tracks well, 1+2. But that's crazy. So not only does it do this much chip damage, it also has the follow-up which can transition. So it's a mind game. You have to guess if they do the follow-up or not. And good Leroy players will just spam this because you're gonna respect it, right? And then end it when their heat is gonna end. So the mind game here is very, very strong. And it's exactly the same situation with 1+2. Like 1+2, 1+2, for example. Look at the chip, right? I think that's like 24 chip damage. This has the same kind of mind game. That you have to guess if they finish or not. Because if they don't finish, you just stand there like an idiot. But if they do finish, they just transition into a heat dash anyway. So not like you're gonna punish it. So this is very, very strong. It's super absurdly strong. You have to be very careful about this chip damage. 1+2, 1+2 just kills you. This 1+2 just kills you. Sidestep 1+2. Did you see that huge chunk? Look at the chunk. Look at the chunk right there. That's a huge chunk of chip damage. That's crazy for a +7 high. Crazy strong. Right? He's dying. Look at that. You guys saw that chip damage? I'm gonna show you again. So just do this like 3 times. 1+2. He's dead. That's like half HP for chip. Right? So this is very, very strong, and it's one of the best things Leroy can do. This is what makes his heat super, super good. He can chip you to death and then just do a low K and then just kill you. Right? So, yeah. Be very careful. And especially be careful about ducking strings, right? If you start ducking something like this, they might literally just throw this out. And that's a launcher, right? That's a safe mid normally anyway. -4 mid. Which also does chip damage, by the way, right? Because he's in heat. And you can just throw this out. And if you duck, you're gonna get launched. GG, well played. So, yeah, be very careful. Very, very careful. Okay. So that's the biggest thing, in my opinion, about Leroy. He also has very good parries, I think. His parries actually recover his heat now, which is a new thing. Nice. So yeah, that mind game at the wall is scary, right? Because you're just standing there like, okay, the last hit is coming. The last hit is coming. It's not fucking coming. You're just getting chipped to death. So you're forced to hard duck. You are forced to hard duck it. But as I said, you don't want a hard duck. Who wants the hard duck? Yeah. Yeah. If they hit you, I forgot to mention this, right? If they hit you, this recovers heat. You saw that? Look at the heat bar. So wait 1 second. I almost forgot to mention this. On hit, it recovers. Same with this. If it's not blocked, it actually recovers. Right? Mustache Flyer, hello. Also, this recovers. And I'm just glad that Leroy players don't realize how broken this is. They can confirm this and not use the heat dash, but all Leroy players I ever see, like the dumbasses they are, they just do this and heat dash at the wall. Like, what the fuck are they doing? Keep heat, bro. Why are you heat dashing? Actually, no. Keep heat dashing, Leroy players. I don't want your character to be stronger. Please, no, don't do it. Keep heat dashing. You waste your heat and do minimal damage. Okay. Don't delete the VOD. I'm deleting this YouTube vid. I'm not uploading this. That's it. but yeah, you have to remember this. Leroy is very, very strong because of this move, all of this on stream, not stream, in heat. Yeah, just keep heat dashing. Keep heat dashing, boys. Trust me. Especially after this. Especially after this at the wall. They just do this. And instead of getting that free wall splat, they just heat dash. Oh, let me just heat dash. Oh, this is worth it. That's worth it, bro. Someone delete the wall. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this, bro? Keep heat dashing. Shh, keep heat dashing. So, yeah. Very, very important to realize this. Very important. Let me check some other heat properties that he has. Just, that, yeah, parries increase heat, chip damage, and that's it. That is it. So let me talk about the heat smash now. let's talk about Heat Smash. So the thing about this Heat Smash is that it also deals shit ton of chip damage. As I said, it's kind of Leroy's identity, just like Bear's identity is chip damage, to deal chip damage. So this, look at the chip damage it does, right? That's pretty decent chip damage. I think that's like almost 20, maybe even more. And it's -6 for you, right? So it's a -6 forced Hermit mix-up. What that means is that something like 4 will check you all the time. You cannot power crush it. Something like 1+2 will check you all the time, but you will not be able to. You'll be able to power crush that, and you'll also be able to rage guard it, right? But the 4 will always check you, and something like a 2 will also always check you. The 4 being the best option for checking in general, and they can also mix you up with many other things. So you have to be careful. Have to be very, very careful. Okay. Anything else I missed, guys, about Heat? I have to think about it a little bit more before I end the vid. But I think that's it, right? More or less, that's it. I don't think I missed too much stuff. There's a lot of setups about Leroy as well, especially those back 1+2 setups. When I played, I showed you guys at the start, like orbital back 1+2, some other stuff back 1+2. But yeah, down back 1+2 I've already mentioned. Oh, forward 4 I did not mention. True. So let me just mention that briefly, and that should be in the end of it. So forward 4 is also another mid heat engager and mid high heat engager. That's very, very good, right? And the thing about this that makes this good is that you can kind of confirm it. It's hard to confirm, don't get me wrong. But if you practice to confirm this, you can confirm this. And the best thing about this is it's a very good whip punisher, right? It's a long range whip, mid, right? Reminds me of something like Lars back 3. But it's a wall splat, and it's also a heat move. So this into whatever, right? Just get the combo. I don't know if they get combo after heat engages, right? But that's okay. That's okay-ish. So yeah, be careful about that move. And they will just do this without the high most of the time. So remember, this is -9. Sometimes you have to challenge it just so the high can come out. So yeah, that's it. That's it for today, and that's it for Leroy. That took like a hour and 20 minutes. That's okay. Like my previous speed lap took so long. Holy hell, that was so long. But yeah, everyone, big thank you for watching, guys. Big thank you, and I'll see you guys in the next video.